Let's be real, soul boosting hasn't mattered in years, and now it's finally on its way to being removed. Here's why that change is not just overdue, it's one of the best updates the game will ever have. Hey, Dreamy here, and for years, soul boosting was one of the core systems in Dragon Ball Legends, part of every unit's growth. But what started as essential quickly became a meaningless button press. Today, I'll explain why its removal is a big win for both new and veteran players. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, and I'll let you decide whether or not I deserve your like and subscription. Taking a look at how things were in the beginning, soul boosting was a core stat progression mechanic that tied to gameplay loops which existed since the game's day one. It provided one of the largest contributions to a unit's power level and actual strength, only losing to probably leveling up and limit breaking. Getting a unit to the highest class of soul boosting, before it was only powerful but now, obviously we have the godly class, was a real challenge, especially when a unit had to reach a specific level before their next soul boosting board was unlocked. But the payoff in the form of a significantly stronger unit was more than worth it. The system did a great job of creating a sense of long-term growth, that feeling of slowly building up enough souls and completing the panels one by one. Then training a unit so you could move on to the next soul boosting board and getting an even stronger unit in the process. And that was really the charm of the system. Soul boosting did a great job of allowing us players to feel like we had control of who we were investing in the most of our resources into. Back in the day, you would have to actually pick which units to soul boost, as there just wasn't enough souls to go around. But over time, something changed. As time passed, farming souls in massive amounts at once steadily became something more accessible to more players. You didn't have to wail out to build up your unit's soul boosting boards. And energy, right? Energy was a big problem back then. You couldn't have 9,999 energy, right? It was still in the form of energy tickets, not energy tanks like we have today. Energy slowly became something that was easier to come by, and farming stages were simplified. They dropped more for less stages, making the process of farming rising souls and super souls ridiculously easy compared to how it was when we were starting it out. This gradual inflation of resources made it easier for everyone, which at the time felt like a great thing. As this continued though, it started to become a passive and mandatory step that didn't add to a unit's value the same way it did in the past, even though it had the same exact effects, right? If you think about it, by this point, everyone was soul boosting every unit. It started with the whales and content creators, of course, but everyone else quickly followed suit, including free-to-play players like myself. Before, you couldn't really speedrun the newest unit's soul boosting process, but nowadays, it's something that you must do via instantly completing every single panel of every single board with the push of a button. All to make sure that the unit's full potential is visible in matches, because everyone was soul boosting every unit, including their supports, and the units they bring in PvP. And the units that you're going to bring into the tougher events. So all of a sudden, soul boosting became a mandatory thing for almost every single unit that dropped, and you had to do it right away as soon as possible because there was just a lot of the character's strengths, like equipment slots for example, that were locked behind actually soul boosting. So not soul boosting your characters at all, it'll leave you with a significantly weaker unit than how strong they're actually supposed to be. This also created a bit of confusion for new players. The system felt like a built-in redundancy for unit building that didn't really make much sense, and it wasn't easy to connect how it works intuitively. I actually had some friends start playing Legends and I saw they didn't soul boost any of their units despite being 2 months deep into playing and having some of the most powerful units of that era. I'm pretty sure it was this Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. I had to situations like that with the introduction of arts boosting, the latest growth mechanic that has a significant impact on a unit's strength, more so in PvP content, but also occasionally in PvP through LBR. Arts boosting definitely has a relatively bigger impact on a unit's strength compared to soul boosting. The general vibe that's associated with arts boosting, right? It being a trickier process due to the limited resources, be it for the arts cores or the seeds that you have to trade in with for tokens like that. It's much harder to collect the required resources, and it feels the same way soul boosting did in the past. This leads us to the benefits of a change as drastic as the removal of soul boosting. The removal of soul boosting, which is coming soon if you may or may not know, is a step in the right direction. I think most of the player base can agree with that. It could do a great job of speeding up unit progression. When you pull a unit, you can throw them into training with gold bells, along with all the Let's Fight stages, and instantly have a runnable unit without having to spend any zenny or even go so far as to touch the soul boosting menu. A significant change like this reduces system complexity for new players. Considering that an update this big is placed right before the 7th anniversary, it'll do an amazing job of creating a cleaner onboarding experience for all the new players trying out the game due to the 7th anniversary. They won't have to deal with a relatively confusing system and focus more on actually playing the game, enjoying various unit abilities and animations in real action. I guess this also applies to older players, where instead of having to direct some of our time and attention to soul boosting units and preparing resources for the process, especially for Zenkai units with even more panels per board, and you basically have to do a second lap, because a lot of times units don't drop instantly with their Zenkai. It's actually always the case. Zenkais are used to renew old units, so you've basically soul boosted them one time, then you need to jump in again. And it's obviously been simplified, right, with this single tap button here, but instead of having to focus on all of this just to unlock the Bergamo's unique ability in this case, we can all just focus on enjoying the meat and potatoes, or events and characters of the game, which is what we should really be here for. We also can't forget about what this means for all of us in the long term. This drastic change obviously signals the devs' intentions of continually developing and somewhat improving the game by streamlining outdated processes, allowing players to focus more on the gameplay experience Legends has to offer. It also means we'll be shifting more from soul boosting to arts boosting as the dominant character growth mechanic after leveling up and limit breaking. It'll be interesting to see how they'll make arts boosting matter the same way soul boosting does, and the reason I say this is because you can feel the effects of soul boosting in all content. PvE, PvP, doesn't matter, while you can only feel the effects of arts boosting in mostly PvE content, and PvP in very specific instances, like I said before, LBR, where one of the rules is that arts boosting actually matters in matches. And it also speaks volumes about how upgrading equipment and the resources required for it need to be separate from the resources we need to upgrade characters. This new philosophy shifts the process of strengthening your count into something cleaner, faster, and overall smarter. A change which, in my opinion, is more than welcome and will provide more of a positive impact for the game's future. The conversation surrounding soul boosting shouldn't just be left to end there. Soul boosting used to be a valued growth mechanic in Legends, but it steadily became an outdated and redundant system which only distracted everyone from getting into the actual important part of the game, which is the gameplay. Its removal is long overdue, and it'll only give way to the arrival of benefits for everyone. But what do you think? Do you think soul boosting should have been removed earlier, or did it still have a place in Legends? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and you can find a more thorough breakdown of the changes coming in the update for next reset right here. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Bye, thanks for watching, never stay perfect, always get better. Peace.